car.
Oh, there's not a scratch on it.
But you did hit something.
A BMW.
Couldn't you have hit an American car?
Oh, honey, if I could have, I would have.
Hot air and you to blow up that blimp.
When I get back tonight, I'll wake you for a little post-game wrap-up.
It is about my, how you say, fiancé, Carlos. You have a fiancé? Well, when did this happen? When I was 4.
1985. A black woman sits on apartment steps in Washington, D.C. watching her neighborhood, ready to judge everyone's business. This wasn't just another sitcom character. This was Mary Jenkins in 227, and she was about to prove Hollywood completely wrong about what America wanted to watch. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications because we bring stories like this every single week. Stories about icons who changed everything and deserve to be remembered. Don't miss the next one. Because here's what nobody tells you about 227. It almost didn't happen. Network executives didn't believe white America would watch a show about black families living normal lives. They were terrified. They wanted to add white characters to make it relatable. They wanted to tone down the black culture, make it more universal. And the creators, led by Christine Houston and Marla Gibbs, looked at those executives and said absolutely not. We're doing this our way, authentically black, unapologetically real, or we're not doing it at all. And you know what happened? The show became a massive hit. Millions of people, black and white, tuned in every Saturday night to spend 30 minutes with Mary Jenkins and her neighbors. Hollywood's fears were exposed as the racist assumptions they always were. Let me take you back to understand why this mattered so much. In 1985, television was a wasteland for black representation. You had The Cosby Show, which had just premiered and was proving black families could dominate ratings, but that was about an upper-class doctor and lawyer. That wasn't most black people's reality. Most black families weren't living in Brooklyn brownstones with expensive art on the walls. They were working class, middle class, living in apartment buildings, struggling to pay bills, dealing with real problems. And television acted like those people didn't exist, like their stories didn't matter, like America didn't want to see them. Christine Houston knew different. She'd written a play in 1978 called 227, based on her own life in a D.C. apartment building. The play captured something real, how communities work, how neighbors become family, how people support each other through hardship, how gossip flows, how life happens in those in-between spaces like front steps and hallways. The play was successful in black theater circuits, and eventually NBC took notice. But taking notice and actually respecting the vision are two different things. Enter Marla Gibbs. This woman had spent years playing Florence the maid on The Jeffersons, being the sarcastic help, getting laughs but never being the center. She was tired of that. She was 54 years old when 227 premiered, an age when Hollywood usually discards women, especially black women, but Marla knew she had more to give. When she read Christine Houston's script, she saw Mary Jenkins wasn't just a character, she was a complete human being. Funny but flawed, gossipy but loving, nosy but caring, imperfect but real. And Marla fought to make sure Mary stayed that way, never became a caricature, never lost her authenticity. The show premiered September 1985 with a simple premise: life in apartment 227 of a Washington, D.C. building. Mary Jenkins, the housewife who knew everyone's business. Lester Jenkins, her hard-working construction worker husband. Brenda, their smart teenage daughter, played by 14-year-old Regina King, yes, that Regina King, who'd later win an Oscar. Rose Holloway, Mary's best friend, more refined but equally loyal. Pearl Shay, the 80-something elder who said whatever she wanted without filter. And Sandra Clark, the sexy neighbor who dated constantly and dressed provocatively and refused to apologize for any of it. And Sandra, played by Jackée Harry, deserves special attention because what she represented was revolutionary. Here was a black woman owning her sexuality on prime-time television, wearing tight clothes, dating multiple men, being confident and unapologetic. And the show never punished her for it. In most sitcoms of that era, a character like Sandra would be the cautionary tale, would learn a lesson about modesty, would have to change. But 227 said no, Sandra gets to be exactly who she is, and that's valid. Mary might disapprove sometimes, might make judgmental comments, but they remained friends, and the show made clear that women make different choices and all deserve respect. In 1987, Jackée Harry won the Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in Comedy. She was the first African-American woman to ever win that award. Think about that. In all of television history up to 1987, not one black woman had been recognized for making people laugh. Jackée shattered that barrier, playing a character who was sexual, confident, and completely herself. That moment opened doors, showed young black actresses they could be funny and feminine and sexual and win awards for it. But the real revolution of 227 was quieter, deeper. It was showing normal black life with dignity. Mary sitting on those steps, watching the neighborhood, commenting on everything. Lester coming home tired from construction work, wanting dinner and peace. Brenda dealing with typical teenage problems, school crushes, peer pressure, identity. Rose hosting her church ladies. Pearl complaining about everything while secretly being the neighborhood wisdom keeper. These weren't extraordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. They were ordinary people living ordinary lives, and that ordinariness was radical. Because for too long, black people on television were only allowed to be exceptional or criminal, genius doctors or dangerous thugs, nothing in between. 227 said, "Screw that. We're showing working-class black folks being regular, being funny, being human, being worthy of your 30 minutes every Saturday night." And America responded. Not just black America, all of America. The ratings proved that when you tell authentic human stories with real characters, race becomes secondary to the universality of the experience. Every episode dealt with something relatable. Mary getting too involved in someone else's business and learning boundaries. Lester feeling unappreciated and Mary remembering to show gratitude. Brenda making a mistake and facing consequences. Rose being too judgmental and learning acceptance. Sandra showing vulnerability beneath the confident exterior. These were stories every family understood regardless of race, but they were told through a specifically black cultural lens, with black dialect, black references, black experiences, and that specificity made them more universal, not less. The show also tackled serious issues when necessary, episodes about racism, about economic struggle, about education inequality, about police harassment, about navigating predominantly white spaces, but always through the lens of comedy, always showing how black families actually dealt with these realities, with humor and resilience and community support. It wasn't after-school special preaching, it was life as it actually happened. And the setting mattered enormously. Those apartment steps where Mary sat became iconic, became symbolic of urban black community spaces. In many cities, the front stoop, the building hallway, the corner, these were where life happened, where neighbors connected, where community formed. 227 captured that perfectly, showed that community isn't just about blood family, it's about chosen family, about the people in your building who become your support system, who watch your kids, who lend you sugar, who sit with you through hard times. For 5 seasons, from 1985 to 1990, 227 delivered consistent quality. The writing was sharp, the acting was brilliant, the chemistry between cast members was genuine. You believed these people actually lived together, actually cared about each other. Marla Gibbs brought depth to every scene, making Mary complex and real. Jackée brought glamour and heart to Sandra. Hal Williams made Lester more than just the husband, made him a full person. Regina King, even at 14, showed the talent that would later win her an Oscar. The show ended in 1990, not because it failed, but because television changes. Networks want new things, nothing lasts forever. But its impact lasted. It proved black stories were commercially viable. It proved authentic representation resonated with all audiences. It proved you didn't need to dilute or apologize or code switch to succeed. It launched careers, broke barriers, opened doors. Regina King went from 227 to becoming one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, winning multiple Emmys and an Oscar. Jackée became a star, continued working for decades. Marla Gibbs became a legend in black entertainment. And the show itself became a cultural touchstone, something people who grew up in the 80s and 90s remember fondly, quote from, feel nostalgic about. But beyond nostalgia, 227 mattered because of what it represented. In an industry that constantly told black creators their stories weren't universal enough, weren't commercial enough, weren't what America wanted, 227 proved all of that was lies. America did want to see black families being normal. America did connect with authentic black experiences. America was ready for representation. It was the gatekeepers who weren't. And here's the thing about representation that young people today might take for granted. When you grow up never seeing yourself on screen, when every show is about people who don't look like you, don't talk like you, don't live like you, it sends a message that you don't matter, that your life isn't interesting, that you're not worthy of being the main character. And when you finally see yourself, when characters who look like you are centered and complex and beloved, it changes everything. It changes how you see yourself, how you see your possibilities, how you understand your worth. 227 gave that gift to millions of black children in the 80s. They saw Mary Jenkins and recognized their own mothers or aunts. They saw Brenda and saw themselves. They saw that apartment building and recognized their own neighborhoods. They saw their lives mattered enough to be on television, to be the center of the story, to be worth watching. That's not just entertainment. That's validation, that's dignity, that's power. And the show did it without being perfect, which made it more powerful. Mary was flawed, sometimes too gossipy, sometimes too judgmental. Sandra made questionable dating choices. Lester could be stubborn. Brenda made mistakes. But they were all fundamentally good people trying their best, supporting each other, building community. That's what real life looks like, and that's what made 227 feel true. Looking back now, decades later, 227 stands as proof that when you let black creators tell black stories authentically, without interference, without demands to make it more palatable, magic happens. The show Christine Houston envisioned, that Marla Gibbs fought to protect, that the cast brought to life succeeded precisely because they refused to compromise. They knew their community, knew their stories, knew what would resonate, and they were right. Every modern show with primarily black casts, from Blackish to Insecure to Abbott Elementary, owes something to 227. Every time a black actress wins an Emmy for comedy, she's walking through the door Jackée opened. Every time a network greenlights a show about normal black life, they're building on the foundation 227 established. The show didn't just entertain, it changed the industry, proved what was possible, demanded better. So if you've never watched 227, find it. It's streaming on various platforms. Watch Mary on those steps, watch Sandra strut in, watch Brenda roll her eyes, watch Lester try to stay out of drama, watch Rose try to maintain dignity, watch Pearl say something outrageous. Let yourself see what authentic black sitcom looks like, what representation done right feels like, what happens when creators refuse to compromise their vision. And if you watched it as a kid, revisit it now. See it with adult eyes. Appreciate the writing, the performances, the cultural significance. Understand what it meant then and what it means now. Remember that this show existed during a time when Hollywood said black stories weren't universal, and it proved them magnificently wrong. 227 was more than a sitcom. It was a revolution disguised as comedy, a statement that black lives and black stories and black communities deserved to be centered, celebrated, loved. It was proof that authenticity wins, that representation matters, that when you trust your vision and refuse to compromise, you create something lasting. Mary Jenkins, sitting on those steps, wasn't just watching her neighborhood, she was watching over a piece of television history, a show that changed everything by simply refusing to be anything other than itself. Now tell me in the comments, did you watch 227? What do you remember most? And if you never watched, are you going to check it out now? And remember, we bring stories like this every week, honoring the shows and people who changed culture and deserve to be remembered. Until next time.